Greetings, it's Terry at Cottage in the Court. Well, I don't know about you, but my garden is bursting at the seams. Between the parrot tulips, the wonderful, wonderful daffodils with their full skirts and many, many ruffles, to the irises about to burst any day now. And I'm not even going to talk about my trees. Everything is ready to go, except we're still in faux spring. Don't be fooled. The temperatures will dip. So pause on putting those annuals out right now. It's not time yet. But I'll tell you what time it is. It's time to start dreaming about the Philadelphia Flowers Show. And let me tell you, we need to dream. This year, it's totally different. It's not until June. And I'm going to let Seth Pearsall, the design director of the Philadelphia Flowers Show, share a little bit more about what we can anticipate and whether we need to make sure our boots are with us. Here's Seth. Good afternoon, Seth. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm doing very well on this lovely, bright, sunny day. How about yourself?
Absolutely wonderful. So, Seth, tell me how you and PHS and the Flower Show are all one big family.
Wow. So I am the design director for the Philadelphia Flower Show. I'm a landscape designer by training and have dabbled in a lot of different worlds. So I can sort of speak to design and horticulture and a little bit of the curatorial aspect of the show. The Flower Show is a really interesting gathering and an event. It does a lot, like it's a tool that accomplishes a lot of things. It brings people together, provides a nice day out, provides folks a chance to see and experience horticulture. It also kind of unglamorously is also a fundraiser in a sorts, in the sense that the revenue and the proceeds all go to then fund or offset funding for the other PHS programs based in urban greening. So, it's kind of a nice feel-good moment. We all live under the umbrella of the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. And if you know anything about PHS, there's, like I said, just a whole folio of different ways of connecting like people and horticulture together. And the Flower Show, I like to fit in there as, one more tool in that. And not a lot of people know that. It kind of seems obvious, but, for folks who know the Flower Show for a long time, back in the day, it was kind of, its own entity. And, now we're all together sort of rowing in the same direction. But yeah, it's not just a frivolous day out, although you can certainly have that if you like. It's also kind of doing good. It's connecting people. So it's a long-winded way to answer your question, but I think that's how it all kind of gels together in one cohesive whole.
Yeah, but it is a feel-good moment to do something good in community. And right now, we so need feel-good moments. Now, this year, I know it's special, but tell me what was special for you last year and what's going to be special for you this year.
Wow, what a great question. All right, cool. So I'll start with last year, where the theme was Riviera Holiday. And that functions on a couple different levels. On the back end, it helps marketing kind of orient some things. It helps kind of set expectations for what folks can expect as a visitor. For me, in kind of a design director role, right, I start to look at, I immediately go to the horticulture. I immediately think about how we're going to sort of manifest a nice statement that folks can either learn something from or see something new in the gardening of the horticulture world. So, because that last year that had, a Mediterranean plant palette We really wanted to sort of try our hand at kind of presenting, a Mediterranean plant palette that was a little unexpected and still accurate. So if you remember that entrance garden, which is the big kind
Yes.
of 100 by 100-foot garden, I was out in California hand tagging every olive tree, nearly every plant that you see in there. I hand picked from sources kind of all over the country, kind of mid California, Santa Barbara area, Southern California for specimen, agaves and euphorbias and other interesting pieces, some stuff down in Florida. So that was spectacular for me because I really got to go into a different plant palette that I know a little bit about, but I was able to really dig into it. Now, if you remember last March, COVID started affecting everything right during flower show week. I think we were
Yep.
the last big event that made it out because, the show ended on that Sunday. The next Tuesday or Wednesday, basically the whole country shut down.
Yeah.
So, because the flower show plans, 18 to 24 months in advance roughly, we had already planned on the theme of habitat, nature's masterpiece, for this, the show that would have been last year. But we knew that we were going to have to pivot, as they say, and kind of be adaptable. Once we determined that we were going to do the show and that we could do the show in kind of the safest way possible, we had to find a location. We searched around both in the city and kind of outside of the city. It's a big event. Inside the flower show, it takes up about 12 acres, give or take. So we needed, a big site. We wanted to be able to space out. We need infrastructure for the guests. We went through a variety of sites, and then eventually we landed on FDR Park, which is where the show will be in June. And then from then, we were sort of scrambling to either readapt the ideas that we already had or throw them out and reinvent them if they weren't applicable, kind of all while doing this remotely. Everybody kind of working from home and, trying to figure out how to take this thing from an indoor show to an outdoor show in under a year. So, the gap between last year and this year it's fun. It's very different, but it's a good challenge, but it's a lot, to compress into 1 year. So,
How did
yeah.
the community feel about bringing the show outside?
The reception has been really, really positive. I can tell you, FDR Park is obviously a valued partner, and the community down there really loves FDR Park. I mean, it's a centerpiece of that particular neighborhood. And they had some improvements that they wanted to do for that park, and because of the timing and just kind of all the pieces moving together, we were able to work with them to fast track a lot of those park amendments. So if anybody's ever been to FDR Park, you'll see there's going to be, some of those kind of architectural structures are getting a proper cleaning, any graffiti removed, being repaired. They've done an amazing job really, kind of doing some, water's edge remediation. It's not technically a wetland, but, invasive species removal. So that's all to say a lot of cool things are happening for kind of a hidden gem in Philadelphia. And I don't know how much you know about Philly and the parks, but typically a park in Philadelphia is a wilderness area that's been, was maybe an estate or something long ago, and now it's been turned over to the Fairmont Park system. So you've got like a lot of trails and sort of wilderness, right? You don't have, and we've got smaller kind of green squares in the city, but that big Central Park style park, where like in New York, you would have just a big green vista with meandering pathways. We don't really have much of that in Philadelphia, but FDR is one place like that. And it was designed by the same firm, the Olmsted firm that did Central Park. So you can kind of see the DNA of park design at the time where, you've got prospect and refuge, if you're familiar with that term. It's sort of, setting up views and putting people in kind of halfway enclosed trees edge, great paths, nice vistas. So yeah, long again, I'm rambling, but the reception has been really positive so far. So yeah, it's
That's a
good.
good thing. It's going
Yeah.
to be so different attending the show without a coat check.
Yes, right. And then I think the weather at that time of year is going to be really, really nice. I think there's going to be something special about wandering around these gardens in a park. Um, you've got big 60 or 80-foot kind of oaks or maples or, just kind of high canopy trees. The pace is going to be much more, you're just kind of strolling among some lovely gardens. And I think it's just going to be really special.
Is this going to be our Chelsea?
I mean, who knows? It could be. We're good friends with RHS, kind of our cousins across the pond. Our organizations are similar. We're also different. I think what they do is absolutely spectacular. I think what we do is spectacular. I feel like we've kind of got our own um, vibe and our own brand, and I think we'll sort of come into our own. PHS is so great in that, like, all of those things go to legit ways that folks in the region can like get their hands dirty with it. So not saying RHS doesn't do that. They've got programs like that, but that's kind of in our DNA from the beginning. So it's kind of cool to see it come into its own, I guess. So yeah, it's going to be nice.
So are we going to, is there still going to be a make and take room?
There is not going to be a make and take this year because of COVID. There are going to be a variety of activities, but you wouldn't believe, how much planning an event with lots of tactile things, gets real complicated really fast. So it's definitely going to be a big part of us moving forward. But make and take, just given the density of people and sort of handling, will be put on hold for this year.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, we're going to get the outside version of the inside show with added value.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's if you're looking at, what I call a plan view drawing, or like if you were looking at the site overhead, we've divided it up into three different areas. If you can imagine, to the right side, which would be the east part, there's a plant district, which will be anchored by the horticourt. It's actually my favorite part of the show. So there will be kind of a modified version of the horticourt there. The middle area, between kind of this, it's like a north-south axis between the Swedish boathouse, or the Swedish museum, and the boathouse. There's a big kind of grand lawn promenade, and we have, like, I think last count, 27 gardens or floral art installations in this area alone. And the great thing about this site is, I like to use IKEA as a metaphor, like, because if you've ever been to IKEA, there's a strongly suggested path, but then there's kind of cut throughs and you can double back if you need to. This site allows for us to do that as well. So, you can sort of, stroll along kind of these nice wide paths. If you need to cut through or sort of double back, you can do that as well. But it's all very, like, a great sort of, I think the word journey is a little overused these days, but it really is, like three strong ways that you can go and just take it in. So the indoor show, you sort of meander through the kind of grid-like setting, right? And that can be really, really fun. In this show, because of the way the paths are, you can sort of stroll along and just see all these gardens at your own pace. Like I said, all 27 of them. And yeah, it's going to be great. So I think that part, getting to your question about the value, will be really, really significant.
Yeah. And don't break my heart. There is still going to be shopping, right?
Oh, there is going to be shopping.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yes, 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 yes. And one of my favorite things about laying out this show is we kind of had the ability to sort of put things, you know, with like things, right? To curate it. So the indoor show is like jam packed and it can be hard to move things around. But this year's show, we were able to sort of, like I said, curate. So the plant district is really based off of, if you can imagine kind of like that that platonic plant, right? That ideal specimen that you want to see and just be like, oh wow, here's this orchid in its best form. How cool is that, right? That's what the plant district is. To answer your shopping question, every area's got some major content pillar, and then some shopping and some like food and beverage or kind of snack moments as well. So each of those three areas on the show floor kind of follows that DNA. There's other shopping in kind of these nice long, almost like a European market fair. So you've got it there, and then you've also got more of a curated element to put some of the products and the vendors near those content areas. So we're really hoping it's a nice cohesive experience for people, and you kind of see what you want to see right when you're in that spot.
It sounds like it. So, was it harder to curate this year than in past years?
Yes and no. I think the timeline and the uncertainty was probably the most challenging thing. I think, like personally, if we had like another 3 or 4 months, I'd be like, all right, no problem. But yeah, it was probably more like COVID and timing because there was an uncertainty element. Um, we had a lot of new partners who we hadn't worked with before. So not being able to sort of quickly communicate with them, just made for some time delays, not because anybody was doing anything wrong, but just because the world was so full of uncertainty. So I think
Mhm.
those were probably the biggest challenges. And if it wasn't for those, it's still a heavy lift, but you kind of know what you need to do and you just methodically work towards the answer. So yeah, I think the uncertain nature of these last 12 months has been, one of the bigger challenges. Some of the purpurias and some of the other kind of, more rare species you'll find this year. I think that's probably the breadth of plant material is going to be refreshing. Um, the other thing to note would be, our public landscapes team is doing landscape, garden, and design work out in the city. And under Andrew Bunting, Andrew and Sam and Leah, among others, sort of head that team up. And they've been doing a really, really cool mixing of kind of natives with tropical accents.
Ooh,
Yeah, so I think this year is going to be a really good year for anybody looking for container, like interesting container ideas that are different. So, you might find like a nice taller structural tropical piece paired really, really nicely with, local natives in a variety of combinations. And there will be so many of those planters around to follow that template. So, again, in speaking with kind of some of the horticulture, those are some noteworthy things. I can think of two major garden displays who will be focusing on kind of bird habitat with regard to gardening. So they're looking at kind of umbral forms or seed heads that would attract birds. I found out, and I have to just double check myself, but I think FDR Park is home to 197 bird species.
wow.
Yeah, so the firm WRT, which is a landscape architecture firm in Philly, they're kind of doing a garden where the horticulture is specifically looking at, kind of wetlands and like, birds. So that's really, really interesting. There's another firm who's looking at, and this sounds kind of like really scientific at first, but I think it applies to all of us. They're really looking at how soil can, affect all of, everybody in the city from compacted stuff to, soil in my garden. And they've got kind of this great, it's hard to explain. You'll have to see it, but it's almost like a representation of soil with kind of these garden elements on top. And in that instance, they're sort of calling attention to like the importance of, getting that kind of sometimes boring or people maybe just amend the soil and then they just want to plant. They're
Mhm.
sort of taking a garden approach to that, which I think will be really, really exciting to see. I think that's it. I could probably talk at length about that, but I don't want to eat up all of the air time with that. So
Oh, that's okay. I'm excited about that because I'm a geek. So, if you don't have good soil, you're not going to have good plants. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. What I'm hearing is we should not just come see the show. We need to visit throughout Philly because it's kind of like all throughout the city.
Well, yes and no. You definitely need to come to the show, and the show is really where, you're going to get, the most concentrated, kind of dose of everything. And I think, there's going to be, the in the Garden District, for example, um, that area is really geared towards people who want to get their hands dirty. That's really where you would go and spend some time with like a subject matter expert, right? And really get into the nitty gritty of like your garden and how all these ideas apply to your garden. The way I like to think about it is I've got the plant district in that kind of eastern area. That's where you sort of see the plant as the ideal building block of a garden, right? You move on to the design district. That's really where you see aspirationally what you can accomplish, right? It's like, wow, I've seen this, these great tools, right? The building block of the garden. I've seen what we construct with a great use of plants. And then the gardener's district is really where you get your like, okay, this is great. How does this apply to me? Like, I need to take these ideas home. I really want to like take that thing, get right to it. In the other show inside, we have kind of that gap between the show and when we can all get out and plant. I think this year I'm also excited because um, you'll be able to like take action right away. Like you can buy a great plant and literally that night go and plant it. So that's what you'll see all in the flower show. We've got several partners around the city that usually activate in their own way, and of course Philadelphia, garden capital of America, at that time of year is absolutely spectacular anyway. So it's going to be a really, really nice time of year to be, kind of hosting this, I think, particularly for gardeners.
So what I'm hearing is we can come dressed up in our finery and think we're in Chelsea, knowing that we're in Philly, and make sure we have our jeans and our garden boots on the way out, right?
Yes, absolutely. I like to dress up myself. I'll be wearing, a nice jacket with kind of a floral pocket square, light fabric for that time of year. But I will have my, my boots on. So it'll be just a perfect mix of both. And, Chelsea has Pim's Cup. There will be some kind of garden spritzer to take in, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. And you'll be able to just sort of perambulate around the site and look at great gardens. And yeah, just like you said, I think you called it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so excited. You have no idea. I want to thank you for your time in sharing what we need to look for. So if anyone is apprehensive, oh no, don't be. They need to get their ticket like now.
Yes,
So, and
definitely.
I'll be there on day one. So maybe I'll see you. Okay.
Please do. Yeah, let's stay in touch. And I'd love to meet you in person when you're here. And it was really great chatting with you. And anytime you want to talk gardens, let's talk. And I definitely want to meet you in person when you come in June. So,
Okay. We'll make that happen. I have to tell you, I am so full. Thank you so much, Seth, for spending some time with me. Let me just tell you what I heard. I heard the show is in June from the 5th to the 13th, that you want to get your ticket now because the tickets are timed. There are displays for everyone, no matter what your interest. There's going to be dramatic displays of floral bliss, and there's going to be shopping. I'm in 100%. You know, the Philadelphia Flower Show has been a ritual in my life for over 30 years. And even though I'm only 31, I'm still looking forward to attending. Now, I'm in the middle of reading a pretty good book about Emily Dickinson. So I thought, let me share one of her poems. This poem is called New Feet Within My Garden Go. New feet within my garden go, new fingers stir the sod. A troubadour upon the elm betrays the solitude. New children play upon the green, new weary sleep below, and still the pensive spring returns, and still the punctual snow. I don't think we have to worry about snow or ice this year when we dream about the Philadelphia Flower Show. I want to say thank you for continuing to follow me. My website, cottageinthecourt.com, Instagram and Twitter, Cottage in Court, Facebook, Cottage in the Court, and every once in a while, I'll write something on Medium. Things are a little crazy right now because I'm writing a book or two. So bear with me, but I'm still here. Enjoy this wonderful season of newness, new beginnings, fresh starts, and being safe.